Hello, this is Kate of Cards by Kate Fletcher. Welcome to my channel. Today's video is a requested one and I'm going to be showing you how I made this. Now this is a peekaboo card. I've also heard it called a secret slider card, which I really liked. It's really simple to do, and I'm going to show you how to make it. Now this was not my original idea, I'm just going to put that out there. You can also find tutorials on these on Jennifer Maguire's channel. I follow Sam Calcott on Mixed Up Craft, and that is where I got all my measurements and my basic technique from for this. My twist to this is I use toppers, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So let's jump into the video and show you how to make this. I am going to be doing a blog post to go alongside this video with all of your cardstock sizes, DSP sizes and score lines on it, and it will be linked in the description box of this video. But this is the piece that measures 10 5/8 inches in length, and on the long side we are scoring at 7 inches. The next piece of cardstock I'm bringing in is the piece that measures 11 inches, and I'm going to be scoring that at 5.5 inches on the long side. And lastly, I'm going to grab in the piece that measures 7.25 inches, and I will be scoring that at 1/4 inch on the long side. Now that is all the scoring that is required for this card, so the scoreboard can go away, and then I'm going to grab in my adhesives. Now the adhesives I'm going to be using on this card are literally just my tacky glue and red liner tape. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab in the piece of cardstock I've just scored at 1/4 inch, and I'm going to run red liner tape along both sides of that 1/4 inch score line. Then I'm going to grab some white cardstock, which can be stamped later on, and I'm going to adhere it onto that piece that I scored at 1/4 inch. That becomes the back of the card. The next thing I'm going to do is grab the piece that I scored at 7 inches. I'm going to burnish the score line, and then I'm going to adhere some DSP to the front of that cardstock. So my burnished fold line is on the left and it's folded behind the card, and the DSP is going to go on the front. Now I am using my Helz Cuppleditch collection today, so I had to try and decide which side of this really pretty cardstock I actually wanted to use. I did go with the green side in the end. And the reason I'm doing all the gluing now is because I want to give this all time to dry. There's going to be some die cutting shortly, so I wanted to make sure all of my glue was dry before I tried to die cut anything. So I'm just making sure that is really well stuck down, and then I'm going to bring in the piece that I scored at 5.5 inches. So the cardstock I have used for my base is tonic cardstock. This is the 12 by 12 sheets that they put on clearance last year, and I absolutely love it. So I am making myself use it because otherwise I would hoard it. So on this 5.5 inch fold line, which I've burnished, keep that so that the opening is on the right hand side, and you're going to adhere some DSP to the inside. As you can see, I'm just doing that now. I've chosen the shiny balloons because I think they are really pretty and I'm just obsessed with them. So that's going to go on the inside, and we can do away with that. Now I'm going to leave those to dry. And while those are drying, I'm going to do the stamping. So I'm just going to bring in my stamps to stamp platform. I love this platform. It is the best thing I bought last year. I honestly think that. So I'm going to bring in the piece of cardstock that was scored at 1/4 inch that I've already put the white card on. And this becomes the back of the card. So this is where I'm stamping my sentiment. Now the stamp set I'm using today is by Pretty Quick. I was lucky enough to win this last year, and I really like this stamp set for the 5x7 type cards because the sentiments are a really good size, so they don't get lost in the middle of the card. So I'm just going to stamp that out really quick. Now I am using my Memento ink pad. You can use whatever you like. It did occur to me after I'd done this, I probably should have used my Papercraft Society black ink because I don't use it half as much as I should. But my Memento is just my go-to. I just can't help it. When I open the ink drawer, it's just the one my hand reaches for when I'm stamping. So that is now all done, and what I can now do is burnish that 1/4 inch score line. You could have done this sooner. I just waited till I had stamped to do that. So the next step to do is to grab your die cutting machine, because we're going to do some die cutting. I do this off camera, but I'm going to show you like where to put your dies. So this is the front of the card, and this is the one we scored at 7 inches. So I'm just positioning the die on the front there. You can use any shape die you want. You don't have to use a rectangle, use whatever you want to. And I'm just choosing washi tape to hold it in place. Now you'll notice at the moment the card is folded back, and now I've opened it up. That is because you do not want your die to go over the flap when it's closed behind it. But when you run it through the machine, you open it up like I've done. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't, and I'll try and explain it a bit better. So I've run that through, and I can now put that little scrappy piece in my box for later. So you can see I have a nice aperture on the front there. I'm now going to bring in the piece I scored at 5.5 inches, and I'm going to line them up. So I've closed the 5.5 inch one, and as you can see I'm lining the edges up, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a pencil, and to make sure that I can get my die exactly where I want it, I'm going to draw around the aperture that I created. Now I am just going to reiterate, this was in no means my idea or technique. I have literally got this from Sam at Mixed Up Crafts, who has inspired this card today. I'm just putting my own twist on it, well, in a few minutes. But this is how she did it, and it really worked. So now we've got our aperture, we can put our die on the front and hold it in place with washi tape, because you can see exactly where you need it. Now when you run this through your die cutting machine, you want to make sure that this one is completely closed, because you want to go through the front bit and the DSP part. So here you go, I've run it through. There's the front bit, and there is the DSP bit. It had just stuck a tiny little bit, so I just had to sort that out quickly. Now the next step is to start assembling our card and creating the magic. So if you now grab in the piece that was originally scored at 7 inches, we are going to stick these two pieces together. Now as you can see here, I have just layered them on top of each other, and I'm going to grab my glue and just put glue around the front part of the 5.5 inch scored card. Now I used the edges of the card and that aperture hole to make sure that it all lined up, but I'm being really careful that the glue can't squidge out, because I do not want to glue that balloon part to the spotty part, if that makes sense. It only needs to be adhered on the one part like I've showed you, and this is how it should look right now. I really hope this is making sense. I will link Sam's video in the description box in case anything I have said does not make sense. So now we're going to grab the back of the card, if you like, and we're going to take off the release paper from the red liner tape, and this will marry up with the back of that 5.5 inch piece. So it'll make sense in a second. There goes my release paper, and this was actually quite tricky to do when I couldn't get my head in to see exactly what I'm doing, so I did have to kind of stop and just check I'd lined it up correctly. But you're just going to take the back of that DSP part and take it to the score line of the stamped piece of cardstock, and just attach it to the red liner tape. As you can see, I'm trying to do there, but it's really hard when you're filming and you can't see whether you're like exact or not, and I do like to be precise. So there you go, that's how it looks now. And as you can see, it all folds closed. I'm just faffing. I faff a lot, I don't know why. So there you go, that is how your card looks. And in a second I will open and close it to show you the mechanism working. And there it is. Can't see it brilliantly because it kind of blends in, but it's there. So for decoration and to get your images, now there's loads of different ways you can do this. Sam was doing stamping on hers. I'm using some toppers that I created from the Gift of Giving paper pad. I just cut these from the front, and I'm going to stick them in here. And then I have some frames that I want to put over the top because I just think it finishes it off nicely, so you haven't just got the bare aperture. So I like to put the frames on. The frames I have are from Hobbycraft. You could easily cut them out yourself. For my Valentine's one at the beginning of this video, I had cut them myself using dies. So I'm just lining up and making sure I'm happy with the position of where these are going to go. And then I literally just use my tacky glue to glue these in place. And the same on the frames. So that's what I'm going to do next, once I can get it all out again. So I'm going to put the video on high speed because you really don't need to sit and watch me gluing everything. So as you can see, I'm just making sure it's all in place. That's why I like using the tacky glue on something like this, because it gives me the wiggle room. If something goes in and I'm not happy with the position, I've got the time I need just to wiggle it around. So that's why I'm using the tacky glue. And the red liner tape I like to use on cards like this because I want something stronger, because it's kind of mechanical where it opens and closes. I want something that's going to hold, and I know red liner tape is nice and strong, so it is going to hold in place. Now when I glued my frames on, I kind of glued in the wrong place on the frames. I got a bit carried away, and that's why you saw me wiping off some glue there, because I didn't want to glue my card together. I've also used a part of the decoupage sheet that came with this collection for the front, and again I tried something different on the front frame and it didn't work, so I just mopped up some glue with the decoupage kit there. And then I've got my happy birthday holographic sign for the front. So I used my Cosmic Shimmer on this just because it's a very intricate die, and I figured if anything leaked out, Cosmic Shimmer does not show. So there's my card. As you can see, it runs really nicely. Now if yours does catch for any reason, you can put a bit of scrap over the edge so that it runs better, but mine was fine. So I just take the release paper off of the red liner tape, and it's just going to hold that back piece nicely, and just give some structure to the back of the card really. And that is the finished card. This is how it looks when it's standing up. And I think it's absolutely beautiful. I really hope this has all made sense. As I said, I will link Sam's original video in the description box just in case anything doesn't want to make sense and you want to see how Sam did hers. But I really, really love this card. It's so fun. And you can give it to anyone, literally. So that's my finished card. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you're going to give it a go. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you're all safe and well. I'll be back soon with more videos, but until then, take care and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.